This video may contain offensive language or be frightening to some viewers. Viewer discretion is recommended. Jake had no love for cats, especially the one in his home. Of course, it wasn't explicitly his cat. It was his roommate's cat, a black and grey stray that he'd adopted a number of years ago. But since his roommate was away for a few weeks, the cat was now Jake's responsibility. Each day he fed him, changed his water, cleaned out his litter box, with far more frequency than his roommate ever did. Small additions to his daily routine that didn't actually require a lot of effort. No, the real effort came at night, when the cat would get lonely. It happened almost like clockwork. Around 3 a.m, he'd hear it outside his bedroom door. Meow. 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 This plaintive meowing cry that would grow more insistent the longer he was ignored. Occasionally interrupted by the sound of its scratching, the sadly beseeching scritch scritch scratch of its tiny claws scraping along the bottom of his door. Jake was allergic to cats and preferred to keep his bedroom door closed. But whenever its cries became unbearable to listen to, he'd open the door just a crack. Just enough to allow it to nose its way through. He'd see its eyes glow green in the darkness, right before it leapt onto his bed and curled up beside him. This purring lump of teeth and claws and hair. He'd wake up sneezing or covered in hives, and no amount of over-the-counter antihistamines seemed to temper the aftermath. But it was often better than hearing it cry all night. And so it went like this, night after night, week after week. Until one morning, the cat simply vanished. Jake opened a can of cat food, assuming the sound would serve as the cat's Pavlovian cue to creep out of hiding. But there was no response. Shrugging it off, he changed its water, cleaned out its litter box, and headed off to work. When Jake returned that evening, there was still no sign of the cat. Its food and water and litter box remained untouched. Slightly more alarmed, but not too alarmed because he understood that cats could be complete assholes sometimes. He poked around the small apartment. There weren't many places it could hide, and yet it still managed to find ways to disappear completely for stretches. There was no sign of it anywhere. What would he tell his roommate when he returned? That night was largely sleepless, as he kept waiting to hear its plaintive cries and pleading scratching outside his bedroom door. But it was quiet all through the night. The next morning, he changed its food and water and went off to work. It had to come out eventually, he reasoned. At work, he searched the internet for advice on hiding cats. He learned that some cats hide when they're hurt or scared or dying. In a few forums, people half-jokingly posited that their cats could open portals to alternate dimensions. The larger takeaway seemed to be that this was just something that most cats do sometimes. They disappear and then return when it's convenient for them. He tried to put it out of his mind. When he returned home that night, the cat's food bowl was empty, and its water dish was bone dry. He breathed a sigh of relief and looked around expectantly, but still couldn't see the cat anywhere. He didn't bother poking around for it. He'd lost enough sleep over it. In just a few more days, the damn cat would be his roommate's problem again. That night, around 3 a.m, he woke up to that familiar sound. Meow, meow, scritch, scritch, scratch. He tuned it out as he allowed himself to drift off again. A small act of defiance, refusing to cater to the fickle whims of his roommate's cat for one measly night. Meow, scritch, scritch, scratch. Meow, scritch, scritch, scratch. Tonight, the cat's meowing cries were almost like white noise, lulling him to sleep. He turned away from the door and found a cooler spot on his pillow to lay his head. Bang, bang, bang! The entire door suddenly shuddered against the pounding force of whatever stood on the other side. Jake was no longer asleep. He sat up and stared at his bedroom door. For a while it remained silent, and he began to wonder if he had just imagined bang, bang, bang. He approached the door and opened it, just a crack, and retreated back to his bed with grim anticipation. For a small eternity, nothing happened. And then the door creaked open, and a pair of nocturnal eyes glowed through the darkness, much larger than the ones he was accustomed to seeing. The familiar purring sound was replaced with something that sounded more like growling. The creature stood up on scaly hind legs and looked down upon him. The cat had brought something back with it. From whatever unknowable dimension it had visited, the creature leapt onto his bed with graceful ease and curled up beside him. A heartbeat before long, exotic teeth sank into his throat. Jake imagined it must have been from hell. Hello? 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 Hi. I'm the old security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Hopefully you're getting this message. I need to explain to you what to do. Now, I'm actually finishing my last week here. That's why you're getting my old job.